Hello, nonprofit rock stars and heroes. This is Tom Check with Greater Impact Consulting, where we help you streamline Salesforce for your organization. And today we are talking about a feature in Salesforce and in Nonprofit Success Pack called levels. This is something that not a lot of people maybe are aware of, especially as they're getting into Salesforce and into Nonprofit Success Pack. It doesn't advertise itself very loudly, but it's a really neat feature that can save you and your team a lot of time and help you segment your donors. Often is what we use this for, but you can use it for volunteers or for program constituents. But to help you segment them really effectively based on how much they're participating with your organization. So the basic idea behind levels is that you're telling it to look at a number or a currency field. And then you're telling it that there's multiple different kind of levels. There's multiple areas that a contact or an account might fit into. So let's take the option of like a donor, and we want to look at a field for total gifts this year. From here, we can set up levels that tell us if this is a $1,000 or more donor this year, $1,000 or less donor this year, a $10,000 or more donor this year. Sometimes we can use this in our marketing and our advertising, especially if you've already got language built around different membership levels or different giving levels. If you've got superstar and supernova kind of giving levels, and you reference that, but you're in there doing it manually every time you create a newsletter or a thank you page at the end of a giving report, why not automate that in Salesforce so you don't have to do that math and that manual calculation? It can also be really useful for identifying the people who maybe volunteer most with your organization, who participate as a program constituent most often, or even stuff as far as users go for outreach and calls logged, stuff like that you can do with some custom rollups. So today we're going to go with a really basic use case and walk you through how this works. And our use case is going to be identifying our giving level for donors in a given year, and specifically so far this year. So we're going to use the existing field in Salesforce Nonprofit Success Pack for total gifts this year as kind of our trigger field. And then we're going to identify 3 different levels based on whether or not they've given less than $1,000, between $1,000 and $10,000, or more than $10,000. So that's our use case for today's scenario. Let's go ahead and share a screen and get started. All right, so when you first log into Salesforce, of course, you're going to go to whatever your default app is to that home page. And the easiest way to get to levels is to go ahead and click on your app launcher and just type in levels. You'll notice that it comes in under items. When I click on this, what I'm likely going to see is a whole lot of nothing. Even if I go into all levels, I'm not going to see anything in there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create new level. And this is the entire template for what we need to know. Now, full transparency, levels are designed to work really well with engagement plans. That's kind of a topic for a separate video as far as how to set up engagement plans, but just know that when we get to that box on here, that is something that you can set up. So we've got 4 required fields. We've got level name, we've got target, source field, and our level field. The level name is just going to be what you want to show up in your level field. So this could be, for me, for my first one, we're going to say less than 1,000. Now, your target is which object is this rolling up to? Which object is this field going to show up on? Now, I can have this based on account if I'm looking especially in the household account model, and I want to treat everybody in a household who donates as just kind of one bucket. Or if I want to identify individual donors, I could mark this on the contact object. We'll go ahead and say contact for this use case, but definitely spend a little time thinking about who you want this level to be associated with in your organization. Our source field is our next field, and this is what the level is going to use to determine what this person's level is. And so for us, like I said, we're using total gifts this year. And if we scroll down, these are all the number or currency fields that show up on the contact object. So if I go ahead and select total gifts this year, Now, level field is where I want this field to show up. And what you'll notice is that there's no options available in here because we have to create the level field for both the current level and the previous level if we want it to show up there. So we have to go create these fields by going into Setup, Object Manager, and then whichever target object we decided here, either contact or account. So let's go ahead and open up Setup, open up our Object Manager, and we're going to go to the contact object for this demonstration. And then we're going to go into Fields and Relationships. From here, we're going to go ahead and click New Field, and we are looking for a lookup field, a lookup relationship field. Now, if you haven't created one of these before, don't worry. They can seem a little overwhelming, but what we're really doing is we're just telling it that this field specifically is related to the levels or the level object. So in the related to box, go find, and you can't see it on the screen because of the way the screen capture software works, but if I click on related to and I scroll down, all of my objects are in there and I just select level. And then level is in there and I hit next. And then I'm going to go ahead and name this level. We can go ahead and leave a description, contact, or a help text if you want. Don't have to. Hit next. Determine who can see this field. And then do you want to add this to the page layouts? The answer ought to probably be yes if you want people to actually see this field. Otherwise, it won't show up on the page layouts. It will be reportable by the people who have access via their profile, but they won't see it as they go through Salesforce. So then we hit next. Do you want to leave this on, do you want to create a related list for this on the levels page? So you certainly can. You don't have to. For today's instance, we won't. But you certainly could. Just depends on if you want to see it in both places. Great. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for a field called previous level. All right, so now let's go ahead and refresh my levels page so that those new fields we just created are now accessible. And I'm going to say less than 1,000 this year. And contact, my source field again is going to be total gifts this year. And when I click on level field, now I see that I've got level and previous level in here, so I can go ahead and select level for my level field, previous level for my previous level field. Now, my minimum amount here is going to be $0, and my maximum amount is going to be $1,000. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and assign an engagement plan with this, I totally could. I would enter it in this box. Like I said, that's probably a video for another time. But if you want to automatically add tasks so that your team gets notified when somebody's level changes, engagement plans are the way to do it. And that's why engagement plans and levels go together so well. Because then you don't have to monitor, hey, this person hit this threshold, this new level. All you have to do is set up this as well as an engagement plan. And then as soon as they hit this level, your team has an engagement plan added to them so that they're getting the tasks and the follow-up pieces necessary for your donors. Great, so I hit save. And then of course I would need to duplicate this process for any of the additional levels that I want to create. So I can go back in and I can create a new level again. And we'll just say 1K to 10K here. Target, again, contact. Source field is going to be total gifts this year. Level field is going to be level. Previous level field going to be previous level. My minimum amount is $1,000 now, and my maximum amount is $10,000. You'll notice that maximum amount only has a greater than symbol here. So that means that if it's $1,000, or if it's $10,000, it actually won't be this level. It would be the next level up. So it has to be less than 10,000 and then greater than or equal to 1,000. So that's the important piece to know as far as the vocabulary goes for minimum and maximum amount. And then, and then we'll go ahead and create one last level. And I accidentally closed out of it. So we'll go in and we'll create, we'll just call this our Rockstar level. And this is for anybody who gives more than 10,000 per year, that has given more than 10,000 total gifts this year. Level, previous level, minimum amount is $10,000. Maximum amount, I'm going to leave blank because it's kind of my upper, anything above 10,000 is what I want in here. Great. So now if I go back to levels, what I should see is I've got my 3 levels, less than 1,000, 1 to 10,000, and then my rock start, because I misspelled it, rock start level. So what does this look like on an actual contact? Let's go find a test contact that we can play with. And we'll go ahead and use my contact in here. So let's see, right now, if I scroll down, my level and my previous level show up in my details under my contact. Right now, this contact has no opportunities. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new contact donation. And let's go ahead and say that this person is going to donate $5,000. Let me go ahead and pre-fill that info. Okay, so really basic, a closed one opportunity of $5,000 on test, or on Tom Check is the primary contact. When I go ahead and save this, and then I have to go rerun my levels. I have to run the batch. Normally this will happen overnight, but for this demo, we're going to go ahead and manually run the batch. So for that, I'm going to need to open up NPSP settings. And in NPSP settings, if I go to bulk data processes, level assignments batch, and I run this batch, what we should see is after this batch is done running, that Tom Check contact should be our middle level. So it should be the 1K to 10K level. Now, of course, your levels, you're going to name whatever makes sense in your organization. If you're using bronze, silver, gold, platinum, great, go ahead and use those as your level names as long as your staff understand them. So we see here now that this level has shown up, it's 1K to 10K. If I were to go ahead and add another donation in here for another $5,000 and rerun that batch again, what we'll see is that that will now update to a rock start level giving level. So let's add another $5,000 donation, close it, closed one, save, and then if I go ahead and rerun this batch again, we'll see that that new level is updated. So generally your levels are going to update every night, and that's an important piece to know. You won't see immediate results when you update a person or when their level updates. It's going to happen on the nightly batch unless you go in and you manually run the level assignment batch. I would say that's totally okay to do as long as you are intentionally entering a bunch of donations and you really want that information to be updated for a project that you're working on. Otherwise, just let it run overnight. And now if I go back and I refresh my contact, we should see that now they are at a rock start level and their previous level is listed as well. So you can see obviously how big of a jump somebody is making by comparing their previous level to their current level. Now what will happen for this instance, because we built this off of the total gifts this year field, is as of January 1st of the following year, all these levels will reset back to 0. So on that nightly batch that happens on January 1st, you'll notice that everybody's level is set back to 0 if you're using a calculated field that is based on a relative date, like this year, last year. If you use a date or a field like total gifts ever, or total giving history, or total volunteer hours, that's not connected to a relative date, then that won't happen. And so that's just something to be aware of. If you're using a field as your trigger field that is calculated or rolled up, then it's going to change based on that field. So as you design your levels layout, make sure that you're thinking about which fields you want to use to calculate the level, where you want to store that information, and know that you can have multiple different kinds of levels running in any given time. Just because we set up a donor level system in this video, I could immediately go back into the levels object and set up my volunteer level as well. And it just runs on different fields. I wouldn't want to use level and previous level. I would need to create new fields, probably called volunteer level and previous volunteer level, in order to house that different set of levels. But it's totally doable to have multiple of these running concurrently based on different information for different stakeholder segments within your organization. So that's the basics of levels. If you want more resources, check out the button on the blog down below. There should be links for additional trailheads, help articles, and perhaps even other blog articles to help you nail down your levels. And in the next video, we are going to be looking at engagement plans, and we'll talk about how to integrate them in with levels so that your team is saving a ton of time on making sure that people are getting the correct touch points at the correct times. Until next time, keep having an amazing impact in your communities and stay awesome.